Binge the full week of The Ray Taylor Show ad-free over at inspireddisorder.com/plus.
This is The Ray Taylor Show.
The Glass Onion, new movie by Rian Johnson, just hit Netflix, and this is his follow-up film to Knives Out. This is part of the Knives Out universe of movies, the Benoit Blanc universe of whodunits. Knives Out being a movie that I absolutely loved, one of my favorite movies of the year that year, one of my favorite movies that came out on Thanksgiving weekend, movies that have frequented my other show, Top 5, on many occasions. One of my favorite, it might be one of, if not my favorite, Rian Johnson film, too. It's definitely shown up a lot of times in my Top 5 lists, and was very excited for this follow-up, Glass Onion, a Knives Out story, which is kind of interesting that they used Knives Out to help promote this movie. I think it helped. I think it definitely helped. Hopefully they're able to get away from that in the follow-up movie, because I hope, for one, there's more of these films. I love Daniel Craig as this character, Benoit Blanc, this guy who's like a detective who knows things, a detective that is surprisingly horrible at dumb games, but is seemingly effortless to solve anything with massive amounts of complexity to it. And this movie, I think, in many ways has a great mystery, just like Knives Out does. Definitely a lot more comedy in this movie. Definitely a lot more just a fun cast of characters, a lot of fun cameos from people. I mean, the cast, in addition to Daniel Craig, we have Edward Norton, Kate Hudson, Dave Bautista, Kathryn Hahn, Janelle Monáe, Leslie Odom Jr., just amazing. And then tons of cameos. Let me see. Hugh Grant has a small part. Ethan Hawke has a small part. Stephen Sondheim, Natasha Lyonne, Serena Williams, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. It is just a movie packed full of really fun moments, really fun characters, and really fun cameos from a lot of different people. And I had a lot of fun, despite the fact the runtime is 2 hours and 20 minutes. They definitely could have cut out a lot of the cameo parts, but I think, this movie was so much fun, I really didn't have a problem with the runtime at all. I was just having so much fun, just constantly... Oh, boy, I forgot to hit record on that. Just constantly enjoying, laughing out loud, and just invested in this interesting mystery. And it was just so much fun, which I would say the first Knives Out has a lot of that same kind of fun. There are definitely a lot of fun moments in Knives Out. I think this one just takes everything to the next level. And it also comments on a lot of things that we are seeing and dealing with over the past couple years. One of which being COVID being a noticeable aspect of this movie. You have characters wearing masks. You have, different things going on. It definitely takes place in a time when COVID was at its peak. That first year of COVID where mostly everybody was, acting like it was a legitimate threat. But then you also have characters like Birdie J, played by Kate Hudson, who's a model, she calls herself somebody who's a truth sayer, but also the type of person who would wear a fake mask, who threw parties during the pandemic, somebody that's clearly, there's a lot of those types of people in this movie. Even Dave Bautista almost plays like a Joe Rogan kind of a character, right? Where he's like this meathead, but he's got this gigantic following on social media, and he's like a men's right activist kind of a guy. Definitely not exactly modeled after Joe Rogan, but definitely that kind of meathead type that's, all of these people act like they're rule breakers. They even refer to themselves as the disruptors, which is super cheesy. Edward Norton plays Miles Braun, who's this quote unquote brilliant rich guy, very much an Elon Musk type, which is kind of insane that this movie was written and directed way before the veneer and the facade of Elon Musk was ripped away once he took over Twitter, and everybody kind of saw how kind of stupid this guy is. Like, he's not really a genius. His academic accreditations, that's not even a real word, but something Miles Braun would say. Miles Braun full of fake words that he makes up to sound smart to stupid people. But I think in many ways we saw how Elon Musk, the fake facade of this brilliant genius, being ripped away as he makes horrible decision after horrible decision in running Twitter. And we see that in many ways mirrored in this Miles Braun character, played by Edward Norton, who is a great, like, he plays that character great, right? He's got that, like, that scared, weaselly kind of part to him, but then also has this, like, overconfident, like, you definitely saw moments of, like, him from Fight Club in this movie and different things. So great. We have Kathryn Hahn playing a politician who is a disruptor. You have Leslie Odom Jr. playing a scientist who works for Miles Braun. And the location of this movie is great, too. Everybody, basically, this movie starts, all these characters have this surprise gift show up at their door. This magical puzzle box gift that shows up, which ultimately is an invitation. You see them all, group calling each other to try and figure this box out. Of course, Benoit Blanc effortlessly finds it out. But it's ultimately this invitation to go to a murder mystery party at their buddy Miles Braun. These people are all old friends. They became friends before they all became successful, despite that's why they're all in such different types of things. And they all met. They would all congregate back in those days at a bar called The Glass Onion, to give context to the title of this movie. But also, the location for this murder mystery party is itself a building structured like a glass onion on an island. It is this like giant mansion compound on an island where Miles Braun lives. Invites all these people over, and he hired people to design the puzzle box. He hired people to write and help him create this murder mystery, this elaborate murder mystery that he's bringing all these people there for. And somehow Benoit Blanc gets invited. He's bored. Everybody's in lockdowns, and he's been depressed because he can't go on any case. He has no interesting cases to keep his mind stimulated. He's on a group chat with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Natasha Lyonne and Stephen Sondheim and somebody else. I forget the other actress that was on that group call, but they're playing some game that's it's kind of like a video game, but like Clue. I don't know what the game is. It's a popular game. But I don't know the name of it. And he's horrible at it, right? Because he is only good at overly complex puzzles. Simple puzzles are almost too simple for him, and he overthinks them. And he's just horrible at them. So he's not doing good. Always in the bath. We see that he has a partner, which we later find out through one of the cameos, one of the many fun cameos. His partner is what's his name? Blanking on his name. Come on, I just mentioned his name. Hugh Grant. Hugh Grant plays his partner, which is great. Great cameo, right? But also, so this movie takes place on this island mansion, which is gorgeous. The mansion is packed full of modern art, including a classical piece of art, the Mona Lisa, which he was able to obtain because the Louvre is short on money because of the pandemic. So he was able to get the Mona Lisa for this mansion. But every shot is full of like just amazing, mostly modern art. And like like popular pop art, surrealism, glass sculptures. Like every shot is like stuff that I don't necessarily know the artist, but I know that these are like amazing pieces of art. And it just kind of it just decorates this modern mansion in such an interesting way to see, like artwork that you would only see in a museum in a home, and to see it all together in a home is kind of crazy. It just elevates this kind of thing that Miles is trying to like portray, having all this art around him, being in this modern mansion, but then trying to act like he's just a normal everyday guy. Like so many rich people that like act like they're not flaunting their money while flaunting their money. But gorgeous where this whole mystery, this whole movie is set. So everything's self-contained on this island. And of course, you can only go to the island certain parts of the day, so they're kind of trapped there in a way until the tide goes down because of this stupid dock setup, this Banksy dock, which I don't know why it's called a Banksy dock, but it's not. When I look at the sculptures that are on this dock and the design of, like, nothing about it makes me think Banksy, but everybody refers to it as a Banksy dock. But yeah, so gorgeous setting for this movie, hilarious movie, had a lot of fun. The mystery's great. The actors are perfect. I love seeing all these actors. They play the perfect characters in them. Including Janelle Monáe, who plays Andy Brand, who is the former partner of Miles Braun. They developed this app that went viral, and that's how they got all of their money. But in an attempt for her to try and keep Miles from doing something, to bringing this fuel to market that without actually testing it, when it could be a massive danger to the world. But he's only looking at the positives where it would produce clean energy, but he's rushing through testing and trying to push things through to be a disruptor, to break the rules even further. But she tries to put a stop to that, and she ends up getting booted out of the company, screwed out of all of her money. But everybody's like confused why she's even there. So all the setup of it, it's all great. I love all of that. In addition to that, there is a moment when they're trying to solve this puzzle box where this puzzle box starts to play a melody, and one of the many cameos. Who was the cameo that I going to try and do this when I shouldn't be doing this? But Yo-Yo Ma, there's a cameo Yo-Yo Ma. He's at a party with Birdie, whatever her face is. Birdie J, right? He's part of her bubble, but it's like just a mansion full of people partying. But he recognizes the tune, and he's explaining that it's Bach's Little Fugue in G minor, and that it's the song is actually a beautiful musical puzzle based on one tune. And when you layer that tune on top of itself, it starts to change and become a different thing altogether. Turns into a completely different structure, which one is a very interesting thing, that there is a song that is a puzzle song that is part of this puzzle box, but it also is in reference to this movie itself, which I found amazing, because so much of this movie is like setting everything up where like things are kind of happening, but in similar ways to Knives Out, where you kind of know the events, you know what actually happened in Knives Out to an extent. A lot of the details are uncovered throughout the movie. And similarly, there's kind of that early presentation of what you think everything's about early on. But that is only to set everything up. Because about an hour into this movie is when the rubber really hits the road. Out of like a 2 hour and 20 minute movie, I think, right? Yeah, 2:20. So about an hour in, like, I'm already in this movie, but about an hour in, it's like, oh, here we go. And that's the moment where we see this movie, this beautiful tune being layered on top of itself. And in doing that, we are presented with a completely newly structured movie that is even more interesting than what we thought we were watching in the first hour of this movie. I thought it was brilliant. I mean, Rian Johnson is a great writer, great director. Like, he, one, understands how to write a great movie. All of his movies, I would say, are beautifully written. And also visually beautifully shot as well. Unique styles. He's tried different things. I'm thinking specifically about Brick. Very uniquely written, very uniquely shot in comparison to a lot of his other films. And you get a lot of that uniqueness to this movie, where even though it is still clearly part of that Benoit Blanc series of films, because Benoit Blanc is very much at the center of this. He's trying to figure this thing out where everything takes a turn, right? An hour in, everything takes a really big turn, and everything we thought we knew is kind of, because it's layered on top of itself. And we even go back, right? Because it's layered on top of itself, we, after an event, we actually go back to see another perspective. We're given more information of what led these characters there, and uncovers the reality of certain characters, and the addition of characters we didn't know even existed. And a lot of scenes shown from different perspectives where you see. So it is very much, in many ways, just like Bach's Little Fugue in G minor, this movie. This movie could have been titled Rian Johnson's Fugue in G minor, because it is a beautiful tune, a beautiful musical puzzle. When you lay it on top of itself, becomes a completely new structure. Absolutely beautiful. And so much fun. Let's take a little break from the show to promote the benefits of Inspired Disorder Plus. So you go inspireddisorder.com/plus. Sign up, $5 a month. You get to binge the full week of the Ray Taylor Show ad-free. You get to watch all of the live painting videos I do. You get a special members-only discount and deals for all of the artwork and merch that I sell. You also get the complete podcast back catalog of every podcast I've ever produced. Hundreds of episodes, countless different podcasts. You also get access to my personal blog. A new blog comes out every week. In addition to that, you get my creative writing that I'm releasing. You also get access to Asking Me Anything. 14 years of experience podcasting. I've been creating art my entire life. I've been using Photoshop since middle school. And you can contact me to ask me questions about that or anything else. So those are the benefits for signing up for Inspired Disorder Plus. And now let's get back to the show! But I do want to talk about things that are a bit spoilery. So I will talk about those things, but I do want to give the warning that I am going to be spoiling things about this movie, but I do want to talk about them because it is amazing. And I would highly recommend watching this movie. It's on Netflix right now. Would have loved to see this in a theater. I heard of other people who had watched this in a theater and that it was just so much fun. People were having so much fun. There were times where I was watching this where I was cheering, clapping, you know. It's just like, I love a movie where it's like it feels like it brings like me in a way where I'm just having so much fun, and there's so many different emotions because the mystery is so interesting, but there's still a ton of comedy. I kind of picked out one of the aspects. I had an assumption of what was going to happen, and it's just because I think watching a Rian Johnson film, a mystery film, like everything that's said means something, is necessary for this story, is talking about the story. Like, the clues are given in this movie, right? That's one of the reasons why I love rewatching Knives Out. Every time I rewatch that movie, I get a little bit more out of it. And I'm going to be rewatching this movie many times because of that same thing, because of these clues that are shown to the audience, but because we are on this ride, we may not be paying attention to all those little details. So when I was watching this, knowing that there was a mystery, I picked up on some things. I picked up on some words that were used multiple times. These things that were being said, and remembered these things that were said. So I was able to put a few things together. But despite that, despite kind of thinking I knew what the end was going to be, the ride to get there, right? It's not the destination. It's the journey, right? And the journey to get to that destination was great. And it ended in a way that I didn't expect, which is also kind of poignant in a lot of ways to what we're seeing in our culture now, in regards to, using art in a way to bring about a message that is bigger than art. Let's put it that way. So I do want to spoil this, so get that out of the way. Spoiler alert for this movie. Where do I want to start? Oh, one of my favorite parts, right? They're all on the island. They're sitting around this table. Miles Braun is like, this is the thing. I got this mystery. It's going to take you guys all weekend to figure this out, right? He doesn't even really know why Benoit Blanc is there. Like, he got a box. He thinks one of his friends, Miles thinks one of his friends reset the box to send it to Benoit Blanc. He wasn't intended to be there. But as this thing's going, he's like, it's going to be... And Benoit's like, oh, what do we win if we guess the thing right? And there was never a real prize involved. But that wasn't the funny part. The funny part, which I almost saw coming, right? Because we are dealing with Benoit Blanc, who is the most brilliant detective, right? In so many ways... is, as a detective in one of these types of movies, so much more interesting and fun than like any Sherlock Holmes movie that I've seen, even Enola Holmes, which I love, those movies as well. I would say Benoit Blanc as that type of a character, like exponentially more entertaining and in really fun stories, well-written, complex, interesting stories. So when he effortlessly figures out and spoils this entire elaborate game that Miles Braun developed, I thought was hilarious, right? Made complete sense, would have been dumb if he was just along the ride with his friends, because, he is so genius. And, the complexity of it was one of the reasons why he was so easily able to figure out. And the reason why everything was difficult for him to figure out is because it was stupid. I absolutely love how real life has been able to catch up and expose itself just as this movie is coming out. When we are seeing somebody who has been regarded as this brilliant rich man in Elon Musk be in so many ways featured in this movie in Edward Norton's character Miles Braun, who is this guy that everybody says, like, if you're listening to the characters speak about him, he's brilliant, but his friends are stupid. And the way Miles talks using fake words, he sounds like he speaks as though he is smart, but only dumb people would realize that, wouldn't notice that he's just kind of saying gibberish. So I love the fact that Edward Norton is this stupid character, and I love that it is the stupidity at which he crafted his plan that's why Benoit Blanc was the ultimate story, the ultimate mystery of this movie was so difficult for him to solve. When this movie rubber hits the road, right, we see Andy get shot, right? This is after Duke chokes, right, and he dies. That's like, oh shit, here we go. And then the lights go out, which I thought was hilarious as well, right? Where Miles is like going to Benoit like, oh, I screwed up. You need to protect me. You need to protect me. And he's not telling him what he needs him to do, and he gives him a slap. And then all the lights go out, and it's like, oh, it's just like there's so many funny moments in this. And then seeing Andy get shot, and then we go back, and then the story is layered on top of itself, and we see that the woman who got the box that just broke it open with the hammer was Andy's twin sister, right? And of course, like when I'm trying to put this together, and we find out that Benoit Blanc got a box, he wasn't supposed to get a box, so it's like, well, he couldn't have gotten it from Andy because that one was just destroyed. Right, and Benoit didn't mention that his box was destroyed. He mentioned that they were just a bunch of kids' games that he was effortless, which easily he would have been able to figure out. So when we see that was a bit of deception on his part, and we see their plan that Andy had been killed even before that, they just hadn't figured it out yet. The news hadn't gotten a hold of it. And the plan for her to act like her twin sister was great. Even though the kind of the twin sister thing is like, okay, I don't care. It like in any other movie it would be lazy, but the way it was used in this movie is perfect. Because then we see all of these scenes with her from a new perspective, because we know that she's acting. We know that it's not her. Like, even the way her sister spoke was this quote-unquote rich bitch, way of speaking. And we see that the reason why she had this confidence that fit with what we thought the character would be, this, like, kind of angry and outspoken person, that courage she got was by drinking these hard kombuchas. They were, like, 9% alcohol or whatever. Right? Loved all that. Loved, like, when she was a great, like, sidekick. That's one of the things with these movies that, like, Benoit Blanc has these, like, interesting sidekicks with them, right? Like, so much of this, Benoit was helped with her work, and in Knives Out, it's, the girl in some ways, even though she's being deceptive to him, but they're kind of on the same team, especially towards the end of that movie. Definitely handled in different ways, but definitely both interesting ways to give our detective kind of a sidekick. Give Sherlock his what was his side? I forget. I'm blanking on his sidekick right now, but you know what I'm talking about, right? Or Watson. Got it. So just so amazing. Also, there's great lines. Like, you have Birdie J, who labels herself as a truth teller, but we hear all of these situations where she's basically just a racist person who is, I'm surprised her character wasn't just complaining about cancel culture all the time, because that would be, right, she's gotten a lot of backlash. Like, she dressed up as, like Beyonce or something like that for Halloween, which obviously implies that she did blackface. She referred to herself as like Harriet Tubman at one point. She's does all of those things that an outspoken racist would do, celebrity racist would do, that would get backlash for those things, and then those would be the people who would be crying about cancel culture. Like, why can't I just be a truth teller? And Benoit has this great line that is dangerous for her to confuse speaking without thought and speaking the truth, because that is what she's doing. She is speaking without thought. She's not understanding the ramifications or consequences for what she's saying, or what the actual meaning, how it's going to be taken. Like, she's at no point concerned with how the thing she says is going to be perceived. She just thinks that if she just runs her mouth, it's truth, right? She's not concerned, and then crying about how it was perfect. It was a great line. which so many like little great lines in this, which is so good. And the fact that they're all like kind of new money, the fact that all these people are basically parasites to Miles Braun, right? He got rich, so he kind of funded all of these people, right? It's insane. It's very similar to Knives Out, how like that family all labeled themselves as a self-made business owner. Meanwhile, all of their money came from the dad, right? And in this one, you know, all of these people act like they are, you know, self-made politicians, scientists, online influencer, like YouTube star kind of a guy, fashionista. But in essence, like all of those people were in those positions because Miles Braun got rich and helped make them who they are. And in return, they help protect Miles, right? They're all on a team, right? Aside from this one, Andy, who got kicked out, who was killed, and that's why your sister's there to help Benoit Blanc figure out. She's the one that went to him to ask for his help to find out who killed her sister. His idea, you need to pretend you're there. It'll help with me being there. And when they're on the island, them working together and trying to understand, putting all the pieces together. And it's great. It is so great. It's you know, because when it does turn back on itself, layer on top of itself, and you see it from the new perspective, and you see that and like when it goes all the way up until her being shot, which is sad because we're seeing this thing. Benoit's like, I can't protect you. I'm just a detective. I'm not a bodyguard. Like, it's going to be dangerous. They already tried to kill you. Like, they already killed your sister. If they see you there thinking that she's alive, they might try and kill you again. Like, your life will be at risk. And when she gets shot, the thing that, you know, brought us back to introducing us to her not being who we thought she was, and then we see her alive, is like, yes! The fact that her sister's little notebook, her notes for future biographers, saved her life. Brilliant. And then, of course, their quick, you know, action to fake her death again. Like, okay, now they think you're dead again. So now we need to use that. You go do your thing. You got to find this envelope. We need this proof. Amazing. Amazing. I want to take a quick break from the show to let you all know that there is official merch for the Ray Taylor Show. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com. You can get t-shirts, different artwork available, different designs, all on high quality materials in all the sizes. There's also iPhone cases made of biodegradable material. That's right. This is not bad for the environment. This is good for the environment. So all of those designs that are available on t-shirts are also available on phone cases. Designed by me, sold by me. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com to support the Ray Taylor Show and promote it out in the world, so all of the people in your life can see that you are a fan of the Ray Taylor Show. Now, let's get back to that very show right now. And the end. I've heard people who don't like the end of this film because this movie destroys the Mona Lisa. Right? And their criticism is very interesting because the only piece of artwork they care about that was destroyed is the Mona Lisa. And I've said this before in reference to the protesters that are protesting climate change by throwing, you know, food on paintings that are protected by glass, like paintings that are not being destroyed in any way, but people act like they are, right? That people are in a huge huff about paintings that they just want to be angry, right? They want to be angry at protesters, so they pretend to care about art. And it's interesting that in this movie, at least the only time I've heard people complain about that same type of thing is that the Mona Lisa gets burned. But at no point do they realize that that mansion is full of artwork, right? The Mona Lisa being the oldest one, but they're not like, all of it isn't like magical, right? It's not magical art. The Mona Lisa is only a priceless thing because people say it is. It doesn't actually have value to life, right? It's not the only piece of art that can express somebody's technique. And most people, if shown an original Mona Lisa and a replica Mona Lisa, would never be able to tell the difference, right? And then you can say that for most art, right? Watch F is for Fake, right? Interesting documentary, quote-unquote documentary. But it's like most people don't have any idea, right? I'm an artist. I create art. I try to make that my living, right? I try to make one aspect of what I do in my life painting and to try and sell those paintings. That whole mansion is full of art made by people, arguably more impressive than the Mona Lisa. And it's so interesting that is the only, because that's like the most famous one. And it's like, it's in the same way people put famous like actors on a pedestal, or not even actors, just famous humans like the Kardashians, right? Don't really add much to society in any way, right? But if one of them were to die, people would be devastated, right? People would be devastated. But in essence, there's billions of people on this planet. One person dying isn't going to change anything, right? And how the art is being destroyed is used in this as like this thing where the one thing that would have helped her prove Miles did the crime got destroyed. The piece of evidence. So it's like, what is the one thing you can do to get back at this guy for killing your twin sister? Right? Giving her the alcohol, here's some courage, right? And then giving her that little chunk of the fuel or whatever that we all that know is highly dangerous, right? And that he doesn't care, right? He acts like he's saving the world, but in essence, he's going to turn every home into a bomb, right? Going to destroy the world, right? So in a lot of ways, this is her protest against one of the worst disasters that could happen to humankind, right? This unproven fuel being put into all the homes, being thrown in space shuttles, right? And gives Miles, literally is the only person who will accurately give Miles what he's always talked about. One of the things in this movie that was mentioned many times, right? Because this is everything that's said means something. And every time Miles says that he wanted to be mentioned in the same sentence as the Mona Lisa means something. And that statement that is absolutely ridiculous finally is going to mean something in the biggest way, right? Where he will be the one responsible for the Mona Lisa no longer being around, right? That impact of him, not only the Mona Lisa, all of these pieces of art, right? A mansion full of some of the most insane art that you will never see, right? The most unique art, far more interesting than the Mona Lisa. But that famous painting, he will finally be mentioned in the same sentence because of what she does. And I love it, how like it starts off just small with her breaking those statues, which is like the glass statues, which is, you know, I was expecting something to break. The fact that there's just a room full of these pedestals with glass sculptures on it, I was like, this is going to happen. There is not going to be a broken piece of art somewhere. So when she starts doing it and then kind of encouraging other people to do it, right? Finally having them turn on Miles in a way where they're starting to break the art, get their frustrations out for basically being his, like, under his control for so long. And then to see the fire start, and then to see her throwing things in the fire, and then everybody's like, oh, maybe we've gone too far. And it's like, it's just the beginning. It's only starting, right? Because she needs that fire. She needs that fire because she knows with that little piece of unstable fuel is going to do in that fire, right? And she knows what the ultimate, like, it's not just about breaking these statues. It's burning the whole thing down. Like, I'm going to destroy your life. You literally took the life of my sister. You tried to end my life. I am going to take away everything you hold valuable. All of these things that fuel your ego, all of these like priceless pieces of art, this ridiculous glass house, this dream that you have of always wanting to be mentioned in the same sentence as Mona Lisa. I'm going to give you all of that, right, in the way you don't expect it. It is like the Twilight Zone answering of a prayer, right? The beware what you wish for. He's wanted to be mentioned in the same sentence as the Mona Lisa his entire life, and now he's getting it, but in the worst way possible. Beautiful. Loved it. I absolutely loved the ending of it. Like, I don't care, right? Like, priceless pieces of art, sure. Things get destroyed all the time. My whole argument with this climate change thing is like, art is going to be meaningless if humans are extinct. If humans are living in a post-apocalyptic world, who cares about art, right? And I'm an artist. This is one of my lifelong passions, is to create art. But I know how meaningless what I do is right now, as corporate greed, if I got sick, like, I'd just be in massive amounts of debt, you know. Just like the quality of life that exists right now, and just how ridiculous I feel making art as it is ridiculous. So for these quote unquote famous pieces of art, which I think are in many ways overrated, I am way more impressed with the majority of art in that mansion that was not the Mona Lisa, right? I'm tired. Like, people hold the Mona Lisa up on this pedestal for some reason, and they don't even know why. It is the same thing with the Kardashians, except for Mona Lisa. Probably there are more reasonings why that is on a pedestal, but it's still ridiculous. It's not magical. It's just an old painting that a bunch of rich people, the only reason art is valued where it is because a bunch of rich people say it is. That's it. It is a way for them to launder their money, to store their money in a thing. You know, it's not because somebody's technique is superior. It's not because the imagery that exists, you know, even though they talk about the Mona Lisa in a way that, you know, tries to add value to it, but that's just what people would say who want to convince themselves that it's a magical piece of art. So I absolutely loved how everything turned around, and he got what he wanted. Miles got what he wanted in the end. Not in the way he wanted it, but he will forever be mentioned in the same sentence as the Mona Lisa. Oh, it's like, you know, that millionaire guy that's supposedly smart? Oh, yeah, he's the one responsible for destroying the Mona Lisa. Which also, the uncovering of Miles Braun's stupidity is brilliant as well, right? And that being the reason why it was so difficult for Benoit to figure out this mystery, because it was so stupid. He literally stole Benoit's idea about giving somebody a gun and turning the lights off. His metaphor. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Such a fun movie. It's beautifully written, beautifully shot. I love every aspect of it. I love that layering that it does. I love that, you know, Rian Johnson tells you what he's going to do. It's so much fun. And great acting, great performances, super interesting characters. A bunch of people that, like, it's similar to Knives Out. It's like a bunch of people that I don't like, that are just selfish, egotistical, delusional people that think that they've earned what they have. And there's the one good person trying to do a good thing. And they win in the end. They win in the end. And I also like that random guy that just showed up. Daryl? Is it Daryl? I don't know if it's Daryl or not, but it might not be. But like just that random house guest that he has that's just in a rough patch, so he's hanging out on the island. He was a lot of fun too, and how he's there with Benoit's like letting the other woman do the thing. Where's her? Is like Helen. I think Andy was her sister, and then Helen is. It's probably not going to tell me. No, I think it was Helen. Was the twins' name, but letting her do the damage, right? Because he couldn't do anything else. It's like, well, the evidence is gone. I can't do anything, right? I am bound by the rules of the law to do what I can do, but now I can't. So here's what you can do, right? You can burn it all down. You can destroy this guy's life. One, it exposes how dangerous the fuel is, right? Does that. It changes all of the opinions of the people that formerly supported him, right? Because after that, they're all like, oh, yeah, they lied to steal the company away from her. So now they're just effortlessly lying to prove that he killed her sister, that, all of this stuff they knew about, right? So what she did, and he's going to forever be responsible for not only lying about this company, not only responsible about pushing this fuel that's dangerous, but also he's going to be mentioned in not only the destruction of the Mona Lisa, but the destruction in countless pieces of priceless art, which I'm hoping that at some point I will hear the argument by somebody that, whether they're happy or disturbed by it, that is more disturbed with the fact that there are tons of art that's being destroyed and not just the Mona Lisa. Like, that's like, it's a very telling thing when the only piece of art you have a problem with being destroyed is the Mona Lisa, and not the like countless other pieces of art that decorated that entire mansion. But I absolutely love this movie. I absolutely love this movie. Definitely one of my favorite of the year. I will be doing my top 5 movies of 2022 coming up in the next few weeks. So see where this lands. I'm going to say it's going to be on the list. I don't know where it's going to be on the list, but this movie is going to be on the list of my favorite movies that came out this year or this past year. But I highly recommend it. If you have Netflix, watch The Glass Onion. And watch Knives Out. Both amazing movies. I hope Rian Johnson keeps doing these. I kind of want him to do other movies too. Hopefully he'll do one and the other or something like that. But even if he just keeps doing these, they're so unique and so different and so fun. Had a lot of fun watching it. Highly recommend. It's so funny too. So check it out. The Glass Onion.
New episodes of The Ray Taylor Show come out every single day. Subscribe on YouTube and everywhere our podcasts are found. Binge the full week over at inspireddisorder.com/plus. Buy Ray Taylor Show merch over at inspireddisorder.com. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out!
Today is the day where you wake up and you realize that everything that you've been dreaming about, everything that you've been wanting, every goal and wish and hope that you've ever had can become real. Dreams can come true. What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.